not just taken down online, but offline action is also taken by coordinating with the proper authorities. I think I'm referring to activities in relation to, say, online sexual exploitation, for instance. We take that very seriously as well, and we work very closely with the NBI, the police, and the other relevant authorities. Now, next slide, please. For our purposes, right, this is the bucket that I think we will focus on today. We talk about misinformation, right? And I would caution everyone also, I know we're all tech savvy in this room, all platforms have a version of this that takes down misinformation and fake news. But I would actually ask you to read how they define it, because there are minute differences. In this case, this is how TikTok defines it, right? In some, we take down harmful misinformation that causes real world harm, or possibly even causes damage to damage the trust in institutions of the markets we operate in, right? Done by institutions and educational universities and educational institutions. It's equally as important that for all of us, we have to equip ourselves with digital literacy tools, understand the lay of the land of online platforms, so that when bad news, fake news and bad actors come our way, we are equipped with that basic protection. Parang vaccination lang to, no? Na pag tumapuno sa iyo yung virus, at the very least, meron kang barrier of protection to know what is false from what is true. So allow me to quickly go through what we do in relation to this. Now, in the first pillar, I talked about our moderation work. I'd like to show you a slide. Sorry, next slide. I think it's here. TikTok regularly publishes our transparency reports. Now, in this slide, it shows you that on the average, TikTok takes down about 95% of violations of community guidelines before anyone even sees it on the platform. What does it tell us? There's a whole lot of activity that happens on the back end, courtesy of our trust and safety team, to ensure that the platform is safe from a lot of these bad actors, right? To educate them on how they can make informed choices closer to the elections. You see also a wide range of media entities already on board the platform, spreading credible information. And to my mind, it's very important because I recall a conversation I had with a colleague, and they told me that the way people now on platforms, at least on TikTok, how they process information has changed. Wherein in the past, it was what they call the age of information, where it was just one way, right? People were passive recipients of information. Now, people are actively creating content as well, right? So it is a very participative process. So you can see here, like in this video with Atom, there is a creator who is stitching the content that Atom is doing. And that is pretty much how content is produced on platforms like TikTok. It's a very participatory process. So for all of us here who are interested in producing content on platforms like TikTok, I think that is something very important to keep in mind. How can we effectively communicate the correct information as well, apart from just doing what is right? And then, as platforms, we have a responsibility to properly police our platform. Educational institutions and media institutions equally have that opportunity to provide the correct information. But in the end, if all of us are not equipped to properly understand or properly appreciate all of that, that might not be enough. That is why we have done a lot of work around digital literacy, not just in the Philippines, across different markets as well. This picture shows you the first digital literacy forum we had late last year. We had some of another top creator we had, Mona Magnovelus, who is also known to some as Mikey Magulang on TikTok. We also had our partner from Internews, who was our news agency and an educational NGO. The thinking there is we cannot, the key message we had is we have to work together, because I keep on sounding like a broken record when they say this, but fake news and misinformation is truly a multi-sectoral problem that requires a multi-sectoral solution. That is why we're working with people such as you yourself today to try and look for ways by which we can improve our methods and strategically think about how to fight this problem. My last slide spoke that addresses the different problems that you face in the different Southeast Asian markets. Of course, here in the Philippines, what is front and center is mis and disinformation, but in other markets, you might think it's also mental wellness, dangerous challenges. So we address that depending on the particular needs of the market. And lastly, my last slide will talk about this basic mindfulness exercise we have for the Digital Literacy Hub. It's a four-step process, very simple. Essentially, it's mindfulness exercise. Stop, think, decide, and act. Right? It's our hope that by using this very simple tool, we, as a first barrier against fake news and misinformation, can already become a agent for stopping the spread of fake news. Right? So this is just.
Usually tell teachers, because I train teachers to create educational content, it has to be quick, quickly, and quotable. Usually start with
I'm gonna take some notes. Everybody, take some notes, guys. Quick,
quickly and
recipe to
quotable.
success.
Crispy and
Quickly and quotable.
You keep
It's like
There's
a
a cue. All right. Okay.
So quick, because again, the average watch time is what, a couple of seconds. So
Yeah.
if you don't get their attention during those few seconds, wala na sila.
And
And of course,
sabi
it's
nga
advice.
naman, gumawa ka ng something nasty, violent, gumawa ka ng
To that effect, Toff was just saying that he saw one of my last videos in my personal TikTok account. It was actually an experiment of mine. So the first few seconds is actually quite long. It's a song. Nakalagay nandun, I waited 2 years for this. I didn't do anything. It was just my face. We did 2 years for this, and people actually waited 10 seconds for what
Which
is
on
about
TikTok is the
song.
equivalent of 2 years, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which again helps it bump up in the algorithm. So what we're talking about here would be you don't need to be scandalous in
Yeah.
order for people to stay.
Mhm.
You can maximize the element of tension or suspense, right? Questions also work, like for my content specifically, fill in, fill out, or fill out, right? It's a question. Tama ba ang fill in the blank? You know? So if we start the question, of course they will stay until they find out kung ano yung answer. So if we frame things that way, again, there's a way to make it more relatable din. Kaya kailangan quickly, dapat in context din. The examples that we use, pwede po humugot, no? Pwede naman na gumamit ng mga kwento para mas matandaan nila. And
That's Cuento with a Q, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like with a Q, kaya kailangan. But yeah, if so it works, people stay, people share the content. And I think when we talk about media, we talk about news. I know, again, and I need to stress this, usually the question really, when it comes to this topic, I said it kanina. Number one, what works? And there's a huge variety of things that work. I'm not asking you to dance, no? Kasi iba baka sumasayaw na lang din, tapos lalagyan natin, hindi naman kailangan gawin yun. But the second question would be, how far am I willing to go? What are the things that work that I'm willing to do? So there's always that balance, kasi we see people maximize what works. If you don't want to be like them, you need to be in the same stage, the same platform, have the same reach. There has to be a few, not compromises, but we can learn from them.
How far are you?
Or not is indeed true. Because to our point and to our experience, Paolo, even people who respect, people who are elder, advanced in age, they become victims too. So we have to help each other.
More often than not, going back to what.
More of what is correct, but are they on the platform? Like, are the experts on the platform?
Do we want to? Will they be popular? Will people listen to them?
Well,
will they know the three?
Are they
things?
doing it for popularity?
Okay.
Because like not to hindi na sa taguba na sa limbang ko, but when I started creating content, you get what, a couple hundred views, 20 views, right? But if you believe that this content needs to be produced, you will keep doing that. So actually what I find, and I've encouraged a lot of retired professors, retired doctors to go back and create content, and some of them are doing it today, is that you can use it as a method for you to share your expertise, just to combat, again, yung existing lies na nandoon. So yun yung problem. Is this worth my time? I think that's a huge question to ask ourselves. And if you find that maybe one or two people reacting positively or learning something new from your video is worth your while, then as an expert, you would keep creating content. So, yun po yung question.
And